Let us begin with a simple question. Suppose you earned 10,000 rupees through your own hard work, you did not steal it from anyone. Does the government have the right to take that money and give it to someone in need?
Obviously. If they need it more, then yes.
Robert Nozick would strongly disagree. Today, let us understand his entitlement theory of justice. First, let us make an important distinction. Some theories of justice look at the present distribution and ask whether it is equal or fair. These are called end-state theories. Nozick disagrees with this approach. According to him, the pattern of distribution is not what matters. What matters is how the distribution came about. Therefore, his theory is historical, not an end-state theory.
Do you mean the process is what matters, not the outcome?
Exactly. And the process is based on an important idea. Justice is about entitlement, not desert. You do not have a right to something simply because you are considered deserving of it. You have a right to it because you acquired it through a legitimate and fair process.
So a lottery winner is just as entitled as a scientist who earned their salary?
If the process was fair, then yes. The entire theory is based on three principles. First, justice in acquisition, along with the Lockean Proviso. When an unowned resource becomes someone's property for the first time, the acquisition is just, as long as it does not make others worse off. Second, justice in transfer. Voluntary exchanges, trade, or gifts are just because they take place with the consent of the people involved. Third, justice in rectification. If something was acquired unjustly in the past, through theft, conquest, slavery, or some other form of injustice, then that injustice must be corrected. To explain this logic, Nozick gives us a famous thought experiment, the Wilt-Chamberlain argument. Wilt-Chamberlain was a famous basketball star. For us, we can imagine any popular cricketer we admire. Suppose everyone begins with an equal amount of money. Then, voluntarily, each person decides to pay $10 to watch this player perform. Millions of people watch him, and as a result, he becomes extremely wealthy.
So the distribution became unequal, but it happened voluntarily.
Exactly. Now, if we want to maintain the original equal pattern of distribution, we would have to repeatedly interfere with people's voluntary choices. This is why Nozick says, "From each as they choose, to each as they are chosen." It is a deliberate reversal of Marx's famous formulation.
What is the philosophy behind this?
There are two foundational ideas behind Nozick's philosophy. The first is self-ownership. You are the owner of yourself, your labor, and the fruits of your labor. The second is the separateness of persons. Every individual is a distinct moral being. Therefore, one person cannot be treated merely as a means for achieving some supposed greater good for others. This leads directly to Nozick's political conclusion: only a minimal state or a night watchman state is justified. The state should be limited to functions such as protection against force, theft, and fraud, along with the enforcement of contracts. Anything beyond this, including welfare and redistribution, is considered unjustified by Nozick. He famously compares taxation for redistributive purposes to forced labor. His argument is that when the government taxes your earnings, it is effectively taking a part of your labor without your consent and using it for the benefit of others.
Wait, Priya. This theory seems very convenient for rich people. If rectification is so important, then which property today is completely free from colonial loot, conquest, or slavery? Honestly, rectification would require massive redistribution, the very thing Nozick wanted to avoid.
That is a very important criticism. Another weakness lies in Nozick's Lockean Proviso. The proviso only requires that others should not be made worse off by the acquisition. Critics argue that this standard is too weak because it may allow highly unequal initial acquisitions to be justified too easily, as long as others can still access equivalent resources through the market.
What did Nozick himself say about this later?
This brings us to one of the most interesting aspects of Nozick's later thought, what we might call Nozick's retreat. Later, in his book The Examined Life, Nozick acknowledged that he may have given insufficient importance to communal values and certain redistributive concerns.
Priya, a common doubt. Rawls also says talent or birth is not a desert, it's morally arbitrary. Both Rawls and Nozick reject desert. So what's the difference between them?
That is an excellent point. Both Rawls and Nozick reject desert as the basis of distributive justice, but they reach completely opposite conclusions. Rawls argues that since our natural talents are not something we morally deserve, the gains arising from those talents can be redistributed by society for the benefit of the least advantaged. Nozick, on the other hand, argues that natural talents are based on the idea of self-ownership, or as C.B. Macpherson would like to call, possessive individualism. The society cannot use natural talents of individuals for common good as it would violate individual liberty. Only individuals are entitled to use their natural talents for just acquisition and transfers. So, we have the same premise but opposite political conclusions. This contrast between Rawls and Nozick is a high-value point to use in an examination answer.
And that Marx line, how exactly is it reversed, word by word?
Let us understand Nozick's famous contrast with Marx. Marx says, "From each according to his ability." Nozick changes ability to use. For Nozick, contribution does not necessarily have to be based on one's ability. Individuals should be free to decide how they want to use their abilities and resources. Marx then says, "To each according to his need." Nozick changes need to as they are chosen. This means that what you receive depends on what others voluntarily choose to give you or exchange with you, rather than simply on what you need.
So what exactly does a minimal state include? Roads, education too?
So, does Nozick support a completely unlimited state? No. He supports only a minimal state, one that provides functions such as police, courts, and national defense. The state protects individuals against force, theft, and fraud, and ensures the enforcement of contracts. According to Nozick, going beyond these functions, for example, using taxation to provide extensive welfare or redistribution, violates individual rights. This is why Nozick is regarded as one of the strongest modern defenders of right libertarianism.
And one last doubt. After his retreat, did Nozick become fully pro-state?
Did Nozick completely abandon his theory later? No. He did not reject his entire theory. He only acknowledged that he may have given too little importance to certain communal values and redistributive concerns. He remained a libertarian, but became somewhat more reflective and open to the limitations of his earlier position. So, remember the key points. Nozick's theory of justice is historical, entitlement-based, and built on the principle of self-ownership. Its logic is extremely powerful when defending individual liberty and voluntary exchange. However, the theory faces a major challenge when we consider the problem of rectification, especially when past inequalities are rooted in theft, conquest, slavery, or other historical injustices.
Perfect note for the answer sheet.
And with that, we will meet again in the next video. Take care.